There are many benefits to using ad hoc filters. Some are to export data as needed. Others may be to use data in a report to narrow down results. And in some situations, you may want to search for data based on certain criteria. This is the example we will show in this video. One benefit of ad hoc filters is to narrow down a search to find just what you need. The all active student filter narrows down a search to eliminate dropped students. After the start of the school year, the search results, if you go to Search, select Student, and click Go, will not be accurate because it will include dropped students. Some refer to these as red kids because all dropped students display in red. As you can see, at Male High School, when this filter was ran, there were 2,033 students that have been at Male High School, including those that have been dropped. We've created the All Active Student Ad Hoc to use to find the current active student count at a school which excludes the dropped students. To search using this ad hoc, users will go to Search, select Student, and then, instead of clicking the green Go button, they will click Advanced Search. Under Advanced Search, you can expand the All Users group and you will see the All Active Students ad hoc. If you double-click on it, it will show the current active student count. As you can see, the Advanced Search using the All Active Students ad hoc lowered the count from 2,033 to 2,006, which is a difference of 27 students. Additionally, users can use the canned advanced search criteria in addition to the filters on the right-hand side. In this example, we are trying to find out how many active 11th graders are enrolled in the school. To combine the two, you will select a filter, add additional criteria on the left, and then click Search. The search results then update based on the criteria entered. Here you will see that there are 479 actively enrolled 11th graders at this school. Thank you. This concludes the video on searching using ad hoc filters. In this video, we will discuss creating a selection editor filter. The difference between a selection editor filter and a query is that a selection editor filter, you are selecting a specific group of students. Perhaps you are putting together the quick recall team. Perhaps you're putting together just a list of students whom you need to print mailing labels for specifically, check grades for, check attendance for, or some other purpose. Whatever the case is, rather than it being a query where you're putting in criteria and pulling up results based on criteria, in this case, you know exactly the students you want to select. So we'll select Selection Editor, Student, and hit Create. In this example, we will call this one the basketball team. Now, an important thing to note is that after the last day of school and before the first day of school, if you leave it at active today, you will view no students because between the last day of school on one school year and the first day of school on the next school year, there are not any active students. This shows everybody in the school. And now what you can do is you can just select specific students from the list. For example, let's say that Travis is on the basketball team and Joseph is on the basketball team. Or you can narrow it down by grade and then type in part of the name. So I can type in, let's say I'm looking for Andrew. I can pull up, well, that'll pull up Anderson. I can pull up Matthew. And I can pull up Andrew, Carter, and so forth. So again, you could either do it by grade, you can do it by all grades, or you can type in a specific name, and it shows you different sort options. So the first step is to give the ad hoc selection editor filter a name. Then you're going to come down here to the quick search. And remember, during the school year, if you leave it at yes, it will show all of your active students. But between school years, you'll have to either change it to no or both to view all of the students. You're going to select the students and then hit the arrow to send them over. Or you can use your control key to select multiple students and send them over. While this is not all of the basketball team, at this time we will actually go ahead and hit click Save. Now, once you save that, you can use it in a report or you can use it in a search. So this is called basketball team. So in this example, I'm going to come down here to Census, reports, and mailing labels. Once I go to mailing labels, instead of choosing it for the entire school or by a specific grade, I can come down here to ad hoc filter and I can choose basketball team and print mailing labels for just the basketball team. Or if I need to just look at their grades, I can do an advanced search and I can select basketball team and hit search. And now I've got just these students and I can go one by one and look at their attendance or look at their grades. Now, just as a note, these are not real students at JCPS. This is using a training environment, and so this is not real student data. If you do need to edit the ad hoc at any point in time, you can simply come back to Ad Hoc Reporting Filter Designer, select the ad hoc and hit Edit. And then if one student is coming off, you can hit the arrow. If you need to add additional students, you can hit the arrow sending them back over. Whenever you make changes, be sure to hit Save. This concludes the video on creating a selection editor filter in Infinite Campus. Ad hoc reporting is a tool in Infinite Campus that allows users to create filters that will allow them to search for data or run reports based on various needs. Users can navigate to ad hoc reports by either typing in ad hoc in the search box at the top of the index panel and then clicking Filter Designer, or navigating to Ad Hoc Reporting Filter Designer. We will demonstrate both. First, if we type in ad hoc in the top, various selections display, and then we'll select Filter Designer and it jumps us straight there. The other method is to navigate to Ad Hoc Reporting on the left and then click on Filter Designer. If you have a lot of options in your index panel, it may be easier to type it at the very top. A good way to start in ad hoc is to make a copy of filters that you think will be helpful. For example, the All Active Students filter in the All Users group eliminates dropped students. This filter also contains the essential elements that most users need when running student-based filters, which includes full name, grade, race, ethnicity, and more. Once you create a copy of a filter, shortly after, a box displays indicating that you have made a copy of the filter. You'll click OK on that box, and then the first thing you want to do is hit Edit, because if not, you'll have the word copy of in front of your filters. So next, we'll click Edit. Here, you'll make any other changes to the filter and click Save. In this situation, we will just demonstrate changing the name. Here we are calling it Active Student List. And then we will click Save. The difference between Save and Save and Test is that Save saves your data only. Save and Test displays the results of the filter with the current criteria and saves the changes. So in this circumstance, we will just click Save. This tutorial has demonstrated how to copy and rename a filter. There are other tutorials available that demonstrate different functions in ad hoc reporting. Welcome to the video on how to create an ad hoc filter from scratch. We'll begin by selecting Query Wizard. On the right-hand side under Data Type, we will do a student-based ad hoc, although you can also do a census or staff ad hoc or one based on course sections. Next, we will select Create. Now that we are in the field selection window, we're going to name our ad hoc. I'm going to call this one Active Student List. This is actually very similar to the All Active Students ad hoc. Now, the one table that everyone has access to is the demographics table. This is going to contain all your basic student demographics that are needed for virtually every ad hoc. We will choose State ID, which is the ID assigned to the student when they enroll in any school in the state of Kentucky. We will also assign the student number, which is their unique ID assigned when they are enrolled in a JCPS school. Other fields will include his first name, last name, middle name, gender. You can also include alias, which is nickname, birth date. We will include race, ethnicity, and grade. Next, we will show you how to use the filter by area. The filter by area is where you can search for a field if you already know the name of the field. The name of the field is what is after the dot. So in this first field, for example, the field name is state ID. If you were to search for this, you would type in state ID with no space rather than student.state ID. We're going to search for end date so we can eliminate drop students. Now that we've typed in end date, we'll hit search. This will narrow down and show you all of the tables that include the end date field. We're going to look under learner, which is basically the student information general area. And we're going to look under active enrollment, which is basically the enrollment tab. Core elements and select end date. There are plenty of other fields you could select at this time, but we are going to stop on the field selection part at this moment, and we're going to move on to the next step, which is filter parameters. You can either follow the breadcrumbs in the top left, or in the lower right, you can click next or back at any time. At this time, we're going to click on filter parameters. This is where you assign the criteria. Now, I just want to show you at the very top, there is a short description. And there's a long description. The short description is very helpful because when you hover over an ad hoc, when you're looking for which ad hoc you need, this will include that data. Now, we're going to come down here to end date and do is null, which means is blank. What that will do is that will exclude any students who have an end dated enrollment within your school. You can also add any other criteria as needed. And so at this time, I'm going to say I only want to include the 11th and 12th graders. So I'll click on the drop down and choose in, which means includes, and do 11, 12. The in criteria is the only one, in or not in, is the only ones you can use when you're separating criteria with a comma. Next, again, to move forward, we can either click next, or in the top right, we can click on output formatting. In this stage, you can name your fields. Naming the fields is very helpful so you don't end up with the long name like student.state ID. So I will type in state ID. I'm going to go ahead and name the fields. These are just examples, not what you have to name them by any means. I'm going to call this one MI for middle initial, and then on the right-hand side, I'm going to put 1 for length, so only lists one character of their middle initial. Gender, this is nickname, date of birth. I like to make the column header about the same size or shorter than the longest entry in the field. Now on end date, what this is going to do is this is going to only include those students who are actively enrolled. And so because we have said is null and we don't need to see an entire column of nothing, I'm going to uncheck that and that will exclude that. The next thing that's very helpful is the sequencing and the sorting. The sequencing is the order of the fields from left to right. So let's say that I want to have last name and then first name and then grade and then whatever other I want to display. So on the right-hand side, in fact, you might actually want to do last name, first name, middle name, grade, and so forth. And then it will follow them from the top to the bottom. Now, as far as grade goes, I do want all my 11th graders together and all my 12th graders together. So I'm going to sort it by grade, and then last name, and then first name. Now, we won't actually show you a sample of this data because it does include real live student data. And so we'll stop at the point of actually previewing the data. There's lots of other things in here. For example, formatting. You can choose uppercase if you want the names to be uppercase. The formatting is based on the type of field that you have. Now, when you come to the bottom, you want to make sure you save your ad hoc. To save your ad hoc, you can either click Save, which would just plain save it, or Save and Test if you want to see a sample of your data as well. At this time, we will just click Save, and it will save our ad hoc filter. This concludes the video on creating a basic ad hoc in Infinite Campus. In this video, we're going to add the zip code field to an existing ad hoc. Sometimes schools need to group students by zip code, or sometimes they need to target one or more zip codes for whatever purpose it might be. It might be mailing, it might be reaching out to students. So in most cases, you will not need to create an ad hoc from scratch. In most cases, you'll have a canned ad hoc that you can make a copy of. This is a similar case. We're going to click on Active Student List and hit Copy. As soon as it hits copy, a copy is made, and then we edit that copy, and the very first thing we want to do is rename that copy. We'll call this Active Student List by zip code. Now that we've named that copy, we want to add the zip code field. Now it's very helpful to use the filter by for this. Once you know the name of a field, you can come up here to filter by and search for it. Always remember less is more. So if you type in zip code, you might be less likely to reach the results you need. However, if you type in zip, you're more likely to reach the results. The more information you put, the less likely you are to reach results. Now let's say you thought it was going to be postal code and you typed in postal, or you typed in code. If you didn't get the results you needed, you may need to just go search for that particular field in Infinite Campus, find out what it's named, and then come back here. So we're going to type in zip and hit search. Once we do that, you'll see that the search results narrowed down to only show us fields that had that information. So we're going to look under census because it is a census field, and we're going to find the zip code of the student's mailing address. Once we expand mailing addresses, we're going to click on zip. Next, we're going to move to filter parameters. Once you get into filter parameters, always remember you may need to remove some criteria if there was existing criteria. We want to pull zip code for the entire school, so we're going to take out 11th and 12th. And click in the gray area, but we've missed one thing. If you remove the value, you also have to remove the operator. So we're going to click on the drop down and click the blank spot at the very top and then click in the gray. Notice I keep clicking in the gray area to the right. That's the best thing to do whenever you add or edit criteria so that the criteria holds. Now, if you wanted to target specific zip codes, you could come in here and do equals if you only wanted to target one zip code. Or if you needed multiple zip codes, you would have to do in for includes. So say I wanted 40207, 40205, and 40204, just as an example. This would only pull a student list for those particular zip codes. Now, we actually want to pull all zip codes, but we want it grouped by zip code. So or sorted by zip code rather. So I'm going to take the criteria out. I'm going to take out the operator and click in the gray. Now we're going to move to the output formatting area. We want to rename it so that it doesn't say mailing address.zip. So we're going to come over here and I'm going to type in zip code. After I type in zip code, I will then come over here, sort it by zip code, last name, and then first name. This concludes the video on creating an ad hoc by zip code and sorting by zip code. Thank you for listening. In this video, we will demonstrate running an ad hoc by race ethnicity. Race ethnicity is a common field added to ad hocs. In many cases, things need to be balanced by race ethnicity. And so in this example, we will take the all active students ad hoc and we will make a copy. Now we will hit edit on this. Now this ad hoc already includes race ethnicity, but we're going to call this students grouped by race ethnicity. Now, just as a guide, whenever you're running an ad hoc and you put in criteria, you need to know how the criteria is stored in Infinite Campus. So we're going to navigate to filter parameters. Just as an example, if you wanted to pull up only those that are Black, African American, or have more than one, then under race ethnicity, you would put in and you would do 4, 7. 4 is Black, African American, and 7 is more than one. It's also important to identify that even if a person marked Hispanic Latino, that is an ethnicity, they also have to select a race. So somebody might be white and Hispanic Latino, Asian and Hispanic Latino, Black and Hispanic Latino. So these are several things to keep in mind. I'm going to take out the criteria for now. Just as an overview to let you know, 1 is Hispanic Latino, 2 is American Indian, Alaska Native, 3 is Asian, 4 is Black African American, 5 is Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, 6 is white, and 7 is more than 1. We're not going to enter any criteria on the screen. Rather, we're going to come over here to grouping and aggregation, and we're going to say group by race, ethnicity, and then count, record count by student number. What this will do is this will group it. And so there's a lot of different grouping and aggregation options. You can group by behavior events, by behavior incidents, behavior resolutions, by grade, lots of different options. So in this example, next we're going to go ahead and hit save and test. And you may have to wait just a brief moment for it to pull up the results. So we'll pause. Up at the top, you'll see how many students are at this school. We've got 1,941 students, and we are waiting. Sometimes if it doesn't load, you can click simple HTML table to get it to load. So now we have it grouped. So race ethnicity 1, which is Hispanic Latino. So you'll see however many records are in there. That's 134. Race ethnicity 2, which is American Indian, Alaska Native. There are 3 records there. Race ethnicity 3, there are 102, and that is Asian. So you'll see that it is grouped by each race ethnicity. Now, if you were going to race ethnicity field and ask it to find you all Asian, all white, all Black, African American, or whatever, it's not going to find it. You have to put in 3 for Asian, 6 for white, 4 for Black or African American, and so forth. This has been a video that shows you how to group by race ethnicity. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.